This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life. Bright.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show. And one of the products I've been promoting tremendously that I find to be so amazing and I'm getting so many results is Astaxanthin. But I've been explaining to people, the more that people are hearing about this, they're telling me about other products out there. The Valasta is the one you want to get. It works different than the other astaxanthins for a reason. And that's why I'm promoting this brand and not just any brand. And people are asking me why, and I've done some interviews on it, but I have the owner of the company with me, Sam Shepard, here on the meeting right now, and I want him to explain to you why this astaxanthin is so much more effective and absorbable than anyone out there on the market, and why the people are getting the results with this one more than anyone out there. So, Sam, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Paul, for having me back to explain it.
Yes, please. So, more and more people are taking the astaxanthin. I'm getting great results with the Valasta, great testimonials, but people aren't getting the same results with other astaxanthins. And I know you were talking about you had a special patent and a special way Valasta does it in our last interview to make it more absorbable. I want you to explain exactly what that process is, because it's not just a little difference, it's a big difference. So explain that.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It took years to figure it out. In the algae cell itself, astaxanthin doesn't exist as pure astaxanthin. And it took me a long time to figure that out. It actually is connected in what's called a glucoside. There can be two different types of astaxanthin in the algae cell itself. The first one is a glucose is attached to the astaxanthin at the OH site of the astaxanthin. And then the other one is called liposomal, which means that there's a fatty acid attached also at that end. And that's what allows it to cross through membranes. The glucose astaxanthin is absorbed through glucose channels at the cell membrane. Valasta is the only astaxanthin that is glucosidic and liposomal. And when I say liposomal, that doesn't mean that astaxanthin is just physically mixed with an oil. That's a mixture. This is chemically bound fatty acids directly to the astaxanthin. So the astaxanthin that you see that's just a mixture of oil and astaxanthin is only about 8% absorbable. Now, the advantage of mixing it with an oil is that it gets it past the stomach acid. But the real absorption happens in the small bowel. And the astaxanthin itself is not readily absorbed. It's only about 8% absorbed, and it's very dose sensitive. Whereas the liposomal or the glucosidic astaxanthin is about 94% absorbed. That's what makes the difference. It's the absorption of it. They both make it past the stomach, but the liposomal and the glucosidic astaxanthin has a much higher absorption coefficient than the pure astaxanthin. As a matter of fact, the powder, the astaxanthin powder that we get from supercritical CO2 extraction is not absorbable at all, and it's 100% astaxanthin. It is a very, very weakly absorbed material. So they mix it with oil that allows it to get somewhat past the stomach and into the small bowel where it can be absorbed, but it's the difference between an 8% absorption and a 94% absorption. And that's why the Valasta is a different product.
Well, we see the animals in nature that you talk about that don't get cancer, and what they have in common is the astaxanthin. What form and how are they getting it in nature?
Well, let me fill you in a little bit. When I started in my treatment, 2003, I was eating the biomass, which is the same way that the animals eat it. They eat the actual algae cells. And sure enough, my polycythemia vera went away. The moment I then took and did a supercritical CO2 extraction, thinking that I was more clever than nature, that I could extract the astaxanthin, and this was in 2007, 2008, the one thing that I observed is that where I was eating the equivalent of 100 milligrams of the astaxanthin in the biomass, I was being required to eat 883 milligrams in the extracted astaxanthin to get the same effect. That was the key, that in the supercritical extraction process of taking it from the algae into the extracted pure form, I was losing that glucosidic or that fatty acid that was attached to it. And I saw it, and I had to increase my dose by a factor of 8 to get the same effect. Now, that was a serious concern as to why that was happening. It took me several years to figure that out as to why that is. We have patents pending on it now that show how to attach a glucose or a fatty acid directly to the astaxanthin. And that's the way it exists in nature. That is the natural way that astaxanthin exists in the Haematococcus pluvialis. It's not in the extracted form.
I see. So that's the difference between Valasta and the other companies out there?
It is. It's all in the absorption coefficients, and the ability for every cell to take it in. What we are now seeing is that when we run a radioactive glucose, we find that in the cancer cells, people who have cancer, and they take the radioactive glucoside of astaxanthin, it goes directly into the cancer cell. The cancer likes the glucose, so it pulls it in to it, and it's what's referred to as a Trojan horse. And when the glucose is absorbed, there's about 20 to 30 or 40 times more glucose channels on a cancer cell than there is on a normal cell, because that's what a cancer cell lives off of. It doesn't necessarily live off of oxygen. So it will preferentially pull that glucose molecule in, and it's what is referred to as a Trojan horse. The glucose carries the astaxanthin in with it, just like the stem on an apple. You take in the apple, but the stem goes with it. Once it's inside the cancer cell, enzymes crack the glucose off of the astaxanthin. The electronegativity of that astaxanthin drastically increases the pH, the electric membrane potential of the cancer cell, and the cancer cell can't survive when that happens. So it goes from an acidic environment to an alkaline environment very, very quickly, and it really disrupts the progression of the cancer cell itself. We think that's the hypothesis as to why this is working.
Sure. Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, I hope that clears it up to many people that would have this question on their mind. And I've already spoken about why yours is the most cost-effective one on the market by far. It's just wonderful. And the most important thing, whatever anyone is doing when they're looking at astaxanthin, is the results. And I personally have given the astaxanthin and sold it to many people, and I'm getting firsthand results and testimonials from people that are amazing. So that's for me what speaks the most. But anyone that wants to know
another question,
yeah,
another question, Paul, that you'll probably get that I've had to answer also is there a difference in activity between the glucosidic form and the liposomal form? To date, we have no reason to believe that they're different. It may simply be we don't have enough data right now to know. We see the same response, whether they take the liposomal form or they take the glucosidic form.
And the form of astaxanthin is both?
We in the oil form, it's primarily liposomal.
Okay.
So in the pump bottle, it's liposomal. In the chocolate bar, it's glucosidic.
Okay.
But both of those are the natural form of astaxanthin in the algae cell itself, and that's the form at which the cell can push the vacuoles of that contain the astaxanthin out to the cell membrane to protect it against ultraviolet light. That's the reason it's produced. So when the algae is exposed to high levels of radiation from the sun as its pond dries out, its salt content increases, and that triggers the Haematococcus then to produce astaxanthin. Well, it has to be able to move it, and those two forms are the movement within the algae cell that causes it to be transportable inside the cell. And that was new technology, new understandings, as to try to figure out why, when we did the supercritical CO2 extraction, did we get a different form than that which was in the algae cell naturally.
I see. And you have a patent on this form, and according to your knowledge, there's no other company out there that produces the astaxanthin that's doing this form.
Yeah. Our patent is based on how we reattach the glucose and the lipid back onto the astaxanthin to get it back into its natural form. That's what the patent's based on. I can't patent, no one can patent the glucosidic or the liposomal product itself. It's the key is how do you get it back into its natural form, because of the processing method at which we get it extracted. We're always better off to eat the natural food, eat the algae. That would be the ultimate. The problem is you have to eat so much. So that was a whole movement into these concentrated natural forms of astaxanthin, so that we're not eating a lot of green algae in our eggs. And
so that's what you're trying to do here. You're trying to get the concentrated form without losing the natural properties.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And that's what our patent was based on.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you for clarifying that and explaining that. And again, everybody, you get the Valasta. I'll put the link below the video, the astaxanthin here. And it's just wonderful. I'm taking it. My children are taking it. And I got to share some of the great testimonies with you, Sam. I'll send them to you, but it's just been wonderful. So thank you for your work and your studies in this.
Thanks, Paul, as always. God bless.
Okay, God bless. Thank you, everybody, for watching. There's many different astaxanthins on the market. This is the one you want, and I have it at my website, rawlife.com. You can place an order there. If you click on the link below the video, you can join my member website and get a 10% discount coupon code. Thank you, and have a great day.
This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.